Hello, everyone. This is Joel Pate again for our Thursday webinar, Score Business Plan 2013. We're covering for the second week. We're going to go through and highlight what we covered last week and then go on through and finish this presentation this week. So really do appreciate you joining us, and I hope that you've been able to take advantage and have taken advantage of the recording on our members-only website or section of our website, Scoreinc.com. And again, there up at the top, there's a members tab. And if you're not a member, we will give you temporary access to that if you'll just opt in there on the link that's there. And we'll be happy to provide you with a temporary password, username and password, so you can access all of our recordings and a lot more information that's there as well. So be sure to do that, and we'll look forward to sharing that information with you. You know, the subtitle of today's event is Don't Overlook the Basics. And, you know, that's the real key here. And I've been speaking to a bunch of you guys this week, is taking us up on our offer to host a 30-minute call with you to go over, you know, really whatever subject you want to, whatever you want to talk about with me would, you know, primarily be business development, affiliate growth, things of that nature. With Joshua would be dispute planning, use of the software, running your business, your credit repair business. So we look forward to making an appointment with you. So if you would like to, go ahead and while we're on the call, make that request of Beth, and we'll get that call set up for you as quickly as possible. But I've spoken to many of you this week, and it's so good to talk with you and hear your problems and the things that you are dealing with. And, you know, in almost every case where I'm getting the calls, again, you know, I have people call me, want to talk about affiliate development and business growth and things like that. It's all about focus and, again, not overlooking the basics. Speaking with one group this week, we talked about the fact that there's really 5 basic elements to your credit repair business. One is accounting and legal and corporate and things of that nature that are very critical. You can't overlook it. If you need a business license, you got to have a business license. You need a license in your state, you need a license in your state. You need to be registered, licensed, bonded. You got to be registered, licensed, bonded. Or just think about it this way: you're operating illegally. Okay. I was on the phone with one of my customers this week that the state of Georgia wants them to pay them back the state of Georgia is demanding $73,000 from my customer because he operated in the state of Georgia without a license. Well, you can't operate in the state of Georgia with a license or without a license because they don't have a license. So if you're doing business in the state of Georgia, you're doing it illegally, and in this case, they want $73,000 back from this guy, which is 100% of all the money he's collected from their consumers. The state of Colorado is about the same way. The state of Kansas, I understand, is about the same way. South Carolina, Louisiana. There's several states that are pretty difficult. So corporate, legal, accounting, you can't overlook that, and don't. Okay. Another key aspect of it is the dispute part of the business. And of course, you know, here at Score, we'll do your disputes for you, so you don't have to concentrate on that part of your business as well. So those are the 2 foundational aspects of your credit repair business. And the other 3, you know, you got to concentrate on those anyway, and that is customer service, servicing the consumer after they've signed up, getting paid, and doing business with that consumer and making them happy to the point that they want to do business with you, want to keep doing business with you. They want to refer people to you. And as a result, you know, you've done a great job. They don't want their money back. They want to refer people to you and tell people that they're real happy with you. And that's the business, okay? And you've got to do that part of the business or your business will fail. The second, the next, if you kind of like build it up as a pyramid, and I should have this slide, forgive me for not. So the next level up to the top is sales. You've got to have operations and apparatuses in place so that when a sale comes in, a call comes in, whatever the source, you can take that call, hopefully when they call in, okay, and close that call, do a great job, follow up where necessary, and you know, be excellent at that aspect of your business, because when somebody walks in the door, calls you on the phone, you've got to close them, okay? And then at the top of the pyramid, and it could be at the bottom, you know, whatever shape you want to make the pyramid these days, is affiliate and business development. And that's the slide that's up here now, and really what we covered last week. But one of you guys told me, I said that I was telling the story, and I stopped short. And so I want to tell that part of the story before we go on to the another aspect of this presentation, which is another key element, and that is the hiring phase. When you're ready to hire people, you've got to go through a particular process in a particular phase, or otherwise you'll fail at hiring people. And there's one thing worse than not having an employee, Joshua. It's having an employee that's terrible. Josh, I think you joined us. Are you there?
Yes, I am. Good afternoon, everyone, and Happy New Year. I haven't been on one of the calls this year, so Happy New Year to all.
Yeah. So one of the keys we're going to cover here at the end of this at halfway through the presentation, we're going to get there, Joshua, is the hiring process. So I'm glad you're on the call because, you've recently taken our process back out for a spin, so to speak, and gone through a new hiring process, and we want to hear all about that. But, so the first part of the presentation, I want to kind of go back through what we did last week real quickly, but I want to finish the story that I started. And that is, how did I start, and what was the process for getting started to recruit 5,000 loan originators, builders, and realtors to send 67,000 transactions, Joshua? And because, I look at this number and I'm still pretty amazed by the size of that number. And I was telling folks last week, we at one point I think we did over 70 trade shows. And I'm talking about physical meetings somewhere other than at my house, 70 of them in 1 year. So, we were pretty busy. But we didn't start there. And Joshua, so many people look at things and say, well, where they want to be, but they don't look at the basics of how to start. And so we want to talk about starting today.
Yeah, one of the things that I'd like to mention, Joel, as well is, the big loan originators, and that's your area of expertise, are a great resource. Most of our customers, Joel, I'd say over 50% of their business, and I'm throwing out a number out there, which I pretty don't have. This is more of an assessment number. I'd say more than 50% of their business comes from that type of business. But what amazed me when I was in the credit repair business, Joel, was the biggest referral resource was our actual internal customers. And I continue to repeat this, is that sometimes we just fail to ask our customers for a referral. And that's something that we've got to make part of the corporate culture when we talk to them on a customer service interaction, or we talk to them on completing a sales endeavor, whether we sold or we didn't sell, when we do a compliance call, if we've got a compliance process, when we do a review process. All of these things are really important for you to engage in new businesses or implement in your existing businesses when building out your plans for the year. So definitely engage these realtors in that same perspective as well. You're never going to get a referral source, Joe, until you start asking for it. You mentioned you were amazed at the amount of loan originators you recruited. It took one thing to do that, work and a plan, and you executed on it. You've got to be clear on how to get that done and commit to it.
Yeah, no doubt about it. That's right. And, back to this pyramid, and again, I wish I had done this slide. It was a last-minute thought to mention this, but, there's corporate, there's legal and accounting, okay, and then there's disputing, and those are the real bedrocks. I mean, really, I'm glad that we're kind of doing it this way. The pyramid really is the base of the pyramid is corporate, legal, accounting, and that's the basis. It can't be business development. Okay. If you think business development is the base of your business, then you need to go out and work for somebody else, or buy one of these franchises or go to work for somewhere, because the basis of your legal is absolute that. And then, of course, the bedrock beyond that is the dispute process. And then what you're talking about there, Joshua, in order to get a referral, you've got to do a good customer service job. You've got to be great, because if you're not great, nobody's going to refer you, because they're not going to refer their friends and family to somebody that they didn't appreciate and like, and really they didn't win them over as exceptional service. So you got to provide that customer service, and I want to get to that at the end and talk about the hiring process around those customer service. And Joshua, we've got something we're going to offer today that we've never offered before, so I want to be able to offer that here at the end of the presentation. But somebody asked me yesterday, or actually I guess it was today, what was the story you began to tell about that you drove over to Baton Rouge to start this new business. Let's call it credit repair, okay? And didn't know anybody, didn't know a soul, nobody knew you. And when I got to that meeting, Joshua, and that guy actually invited me to join, to befriend him on LinkedIn last week, and I remember that guy's name. And I can't wait to call him up and say, let me tell you the story I've been telling for 10 years here about you and the fact you weren't there at that meeting after I drove 2.5 hours to get there. And but I found myself at this intersection. Now, this building here on the bottom of the slide it says Robinson Brothers, which it used to be Lamar Ford. And right across the street at the top in the red is Jack in the Box. And I was at that corner and going, what in the heck do I do? I've got a meeting in New Orleans a day from now. I'm an hour from New Orleans, but I've got to be prosperous. I've got to make a difference. I've got to feed my family. I've got 2 kids in private school. I've got a brand new business, and I've got to make it work. And now, Joshua, the end result of that business is we earned $27 million worth of fee income in 8 years. But it all began at that corner that day. And I turned and I said, well, the only thing I know to do, this is really before email, okay? Email was really just coming out. This is before website. This was before all these things that you've got now that you're going to really, quite frankly, I believe, impede your ability to do business as well as assist in your ability to do business. But I said, I'm going to turn left on this road going towards New Orleans, and I'm going to speak to I'm going to stop at every real estate company and every mortgage company that I come in contact with the rest of the day until I get to New Orleans and go to sleep tonight, because there was nothing else to do. There wasn't even a Starbucks to go to, Joshua, and try to figure it out. There wasn't no internet Wi-Fi to get on. There wasn't anything, okay? But my ability, my knowledge of the product, my need to make money, and the fact that I had no other choice, okay? And if, and I find most people, whether you're doing 200 deals a month and you want to grow from there, or whether you're just starting out, that's really where you are. And you've got to get outside of in front of your computer. You've got to get outside of your office. You've got to get out of the Starbucks. You've got to stop spending time with people that can't help you grow your business. Because only people that can help you grow your business when you should be spending time on your business is the only people that can help you. Okay, the guy at Starbucks can't help you. Most people at B&I groups can't help you. If they're not in a business that depends upon people buying stuff on credit, and the fact that most of their clients are 20% or 60% or 80%, whatever the number is, can't buy, and as a result, they can't earn. If you're not talking to that person, you're talking to the wrong person, Joshua. And I'm talking about 60% of the time. If you're in the business development part of your business, you've got to be talking to people that can be referral sources 60% of the time. Now, if you're a one-man, two-man, three-man shop, then it's time to begin to break up that effort into 2 or 3, different divisions, or 2 or 3 different departments, I should say. But if you're in the business development, you've got to spend 60% of your time doing that. If you're in sales, you've got to spend over 60% of your time doing that. If you're in customer service, you've got to spend 60% of your time doing that. And if you're in all of it, then you've got to time block your day nonetheless to spend a sufficient amount of time in every one of those departments with the plan of getting yourself to the next level. So Joshua, that's a lot to take in, and that's a lot to consider for whether you're a multiple man shop with that's doing a couple hundred deals a month, or if you're just starting out.
Yeah. I mean, it takes a lot of commitment. It takes a lot of necessity. Everyone on this call is here today because they're looking to improve their business. Sometimes we just end up doing things a certain way. But definitely understanding when, just saying, well, we've got to execute is not enough. What Joel is saying on this call right now is, look, give yourself a benchmark. If you're gonna dedicate yourself to doing sales, and his biggest example is he just really just got through the noise. The noise in his brain at that time was, what the hell am I going to do? And he says, well, I'm going to do this. I'm going to go down that road and stop at every single place I need to stop at, and that's my plan. Sometimes it's just got to get that basic. I've spoken to a lot of my CROs, and they say, well, I want to generate affiliate referral resources to start sending me customers, get my phone ringing. And I asked them, so what's your plan? And, well, I don't know. That's what I'm talking to you about. So why don't we start visiting and set up a goal on a weekly basis? And some of you on this call will know that I've said this to you. Let's try to recruit one affiliate resource per week that sends you at least one customer to refer. Let's start at the beginning. Now, that's not a lot. But when you have nothing, that's a lot less than nothing. And as long as, and the purpose of that exercise, ladies and gentlemen, is to get yourself started in that direction. Get rid of all the noise. Get rid of everything that's skewing you from dedicating 60% of your time on that task, which will generate revenue in the future, and fundamentally start feeding your business monthly, daily, yearly, trimester, quarterly. It'll continue to feed your business. So that's where we have to start, Joe. So it's focus and establishing goals, setting commitment points, blocking time like you're mentioning right now, Joe, is absolutely paramount.
And again, to kind of go through what we covered last week, and I recommend that you go back and listen to last week's call. But the goal here for that effort of stopping at every beginning to stop at every real estate office that I came across, and I don't recommend that to you, but that's what I had to do because I didn't know anything else to do. And last week we covered a lot of ground that, without a doubt, if you'll go implement the process we talked about last week, that there's no doubt about it that you will meet more than one referral source a week. And the goal there is to meet 3 that leverages into about 6. And if you'll do that every week, you'll pick up at least one new referral source every week. Now, if you'll grow your business with that simple goal in mind, I'm going to pick up one referral source a week that's got business to send me, then you'll grow your business. And again, I was on the phone with someone yesterday that it was, I call it at 80,000 feet, Joshua. I mean, it's like everything I said, they couldn't get down below the clouds. I'm talking about you got to get down to through the clouds, through all the noise, down through the clutter, to the point that you know exactly what you're going to go do each day in order to do it. And we covered that last week, so I recommend you go back through that. But the goal here is for everybody in your market to know that you're the guy and the gal that can improve somebody's credit, okay, kind of running back through this. And again, determine the business model, spend 60% of your day in sales, establish non-negotiables, get paid, how, we covered that. All of this we covered. You must know the outcome of a project before you begin. So, set the goals in place and write them down so that, you've got a benchmark and hold yourself accountable for it. And as actions develop results, adjust your presentation and your actions. Development of referral sources, these are the goals here. Again, all of this is we covered just so well last week that it wouldn't do it service just to skip through it. So I recommend that you listen to last week's recording. And this week, Joshua, I want to get to the next phase of this, because when whether you have the capital to hire an employee before you start, or have to wait until after you start, or you're ready to hire the next group of employees, great employees equals a great business. And the attributes, and so we want to cover the attributes of a great employee. And as I said earlier in the presentation, Joshua, there's absolutely categorically one thing worse than having no employees or not enough employees, and that's having a sorry employee. One that, you've got them in the customer service role, but it's obvious they don't like people, okay? You've got them in a compliancy role or sales role, but it's obvious that they don't contain within themselves the certain personality profile attribute that allows them to sell inside of a compliant atmosphere versus just saying anything they want to say to get the deal done, okay, and the deal closed. So a great employee equals a great business, and that's really what I want to cover, because as we begin to grow the business, this is the key. So Joshua, it's really about this slide here, is that a great employee really equals the right employee. I made a mistake years ago of finding a person that I thought they were great, and I wanted to hire them. And my wife says, well, what job are you going to put them in? I said, I don't know, but I'm going to hire them, and I'm going to figure out what job to put them in. And Joshua can probably finish my next statement. And she says, yeah, you want to hire them because they're just like you. You like them.
Just like you. Yeah, we like
just
them.
like
That's
you.
That's what we do. That's
yeah,
what we do.
but she said, what are they good for? Somebody said, well, he's a great employee. I said, what's he good for? What's he great for? That's the question. What's the job, and what kind of employee do you have to have? And that's the only question, Joshua.
Yeah, I mean, you've got to have an employee that fits the profile, fits the needs. So in order to establish the profile, you pretty much have to really sit down and determine what are the needs of that specific job description or task. And then, that not only works for choosing an employee, it's assigning the right employees to maximize, once you've already got that employee, choosing the right employee that has the right, let's say, skill set or attributes to go ahead and drive specific tasks within that job description. You might have a set of employees, and they're all good. We've got processors at Score. So we've got all of them fit a specific profile, but some of them excel at certain areas, because all profiles, even though they fit a certain mold at sometimes when you're looking for one, they're not exactly the same. And that's because the personality types have learned to adjust. Not that they're different. They're always going to be the same, but they understand the weak points, and they compensate after a while. And that sometimes gives you a better employee, because they're aware of that. I'm aware of the fact that I'm a creative personality. So I tend to move from multiple projects between one to the other with great ease, and be very creative in how to handle them. But when you structure an environment around me, it's very difficult for me to follow that path. So I know this. So I have to build a management style around that can't inhibit my employees below me, but at the same time provide them with enough guidance to move forward. So I understand that weak point. I also tend to love people that are just like me. When I meet another creative personality, Joe, I fall in love with them. I want to hire them on the spot. Just like you said to your wife, I don't know what job he's going to do, but I need to hire this person. Well, that's one thing we need to stay away from, Joe. That's absolutely the wrong way.
Yeah, and I can assure you of all the things I can assure you of, you don't need another you in the business. What you need, if you need a hammer, you need a hammer, okay? Hammers do two basic things. They hammer nails and they pull nails out. They don't screw in screws. They don't screw in, they don't lock down nuts or washers. They don't dig trenches, okay? They hammer, okay? So a customer service person, imagine them, and it's a good parallel here, but a hammer, imagine as a customer service person. Imagine your shovel as the business development person. Imagine your salesperson as a screwdriver. Those are the characteristics. As different as those tools are, it's really as different as those personalities seem to be. Now, that's a real oversimplification, of course. Beth Carter, which most of you guys know, she's really pretty good at a number of things because she's a specialist, okay? But she's not great at sales, okay? But she can get through it. She doesn't like but a great salesperson, see, a super salesperson, a real salesperson, they can overcome objection, where a person doing sales that really isn't a great salesperson, they can just handle so much objection, and then they're just shot. Okay, and so again, a good analysis to use. Some of our processors, a few of them are they just want to sit there at that computer. They don't want to talk to anybody. They don't want to do anything. So you got somebody in a sales role. I was consulting with one of our gentleman customers out of I forget where he's from, actually. I think Florida. And he says, well, I've got this salesperson, but right now I really need them, doing some customer service. I said, well, do they have those skills? So I don't know, but that's what I need them to do. Again, kind of wrong question to ask, and wrong way to get them to get the right person doing that job. Consulting with someone else yesterday, I asked them this basic question. Of this pyramid that we've been talking about today, which of the two roles, it was a partnership, okay? Which of the two roles do you fit in best? And until you get to the point where you're doing 14 or 15 new sales a month, I don't think you can afford to hire a salesperson. Now, the question then would be is, can you get to 14 or 15 new sales a month, or 20? And their goal is to, I think they're actually at about 14 now. In order to get to 25, they wanted to get to, can you get to 25 without hiring a salesperson? And if the answer is no, then the question is, well, do you have the capital to do it? And if the answer is no, then again, you're kind of back to that same element of which comes first, the chicken or the egg. Okay, so again, let's get back and stay on the focus of the employees. But Joshua, let's talk about our hiring process that we've used in order to hone our skills around hiring a great employee. So I'll let you go through this.
Well, hiring a salesperson or any person in your business, our employees, just like our customers and our affiliate referral sources, our customers as well. They've got to buy into in our case, to Score, in your case, to your company and what purpose it has. In order to do that, you've got to be able to define and post a great sales opportunity to have a job at your company, and define what that means. At Score, we post first. We post an ad, and that ad basically if it's for a processor, it basically is guided to tell processors to send us a 50-word essay, and only a 50-word essay, no resume, no letters of introduction. Just send me a 50-word essay. And it doesn't say what not to send. It just says, only send a 50-word essay. Well, if it was a creative personality like me, I would try to come up with a resume and send it in, and it would be the best one, and a PowerPoint, and maybe a video of myself, and a bunch of stuff. And what I would do with somebody like that, Joe? I would immediately disqualify that person, because a perfectionist type would do exactly what I asked them for. And that's the person that we want to follow our process within our Score policy. So that's the first sifting or sorting that we do of our customers. Once we pre-qualify them, and they sent me only a 50-word essay, what happens is that some of them send me exactly 50 words. Some of them will send me more or less. And then I'll go ahead and we have a point structure because they did only send the 50-word essay, and then we'll ask them to go ahead and fill out a pre-qualification assessment. And it's a spreadsheet that we have that basically has some questions that pre-qualify some of our of the future candidates to show us whether or not they're built for that before investing in what we call a personality profile disc assessment, which is a small cost. But before we do that, we try to once again sort through these candidates. Once we've done that, then we ask them to come in. We previously, and we made this change in our current hiring, previously asked them to send them just a disc assessment and had them take that assessment. Unfortunately, we found I was uncomfortable with that because I think that people can really lie their way through these assessments. It's my own personal opinion, and they can try at least. And it might not be genuine, or have somebody take it for them. And since we had used this process in the past, I wanted to change it. So I had them come in this time and take the assessment in front of me. Once they've taken the assessment, or in front of somebody at SCORE, once they've taken the assessment, then if they would profile out to be either a specialist personality profile, or a perfectionist personality profile, or an objective thinker personality profile, and I'll get back to that last one, then they would spec out to basically be the correct employee for our process. But then I would ask for the resume, for previous employment recommendations, and all of that, and then follow up on that, and fundamentally add that to a point scoring system, and then choose my my best candidate and offer them a job. And I would give them a formal job offer, where they would have a written job offer and with a job description of what they have and what their benefits are going to be like, or payment, and what is it like at SCORE. And then I continue to sell the SCORE philosophy and dreams and principles to them at all times. The purpose of this is because if we don't do this, some of us do this naturally. Some of you on this call do a lot of this process naturally. It doesn't come naturally to me. I'm compelled to hire somebody just like me, and we're a small company. In comparison to much larger Fortune 500 companies, we're a smaller company. So we have to, in management, we put on several hats. And one of these HR recruitment processes belongs to me, and this is the only way I was able to hire successfully for this processing position. Now, what happened before the process, Joel? Before we implemented this process, we hired people because I liked them or they had a lot of experience. Well, sometimes when you have people that have a lot of experience, you might be able to get away with not following the process. The problem that we found is that normally that type of employee is going to be a high-maintenance employee, ladies and gentlemen. This is the employee that will challenge every step of the process, will want to change, and especially if they're creative. If there's something else, they might get tired and wander or not produce the same numbers that you need to produce. In our case, some of them might be aloof and move away from the consistency with regards to the quality. So as we've moved along, the process has corrected itself. And at this point, in our hiring, while running multiple intervals of this hiring process, I think about 2 times per year for the last year and a half or so, we probably, our employment has shifted to only perfectionists, specialists, and objective thinkers. We have the only creative personality, ladies and gentlemen, that's just like me, in my business is me. By following this process, the process itself has pushed away and kind of gotten rid of those employees that really didn't fit the profile. And that's the benefit of doing that. When you do this, let me tell you what this gives you. It gives you time to operate, because when you hire to spec, or you buy anything to spec, things work without having to continuously intervene with them. And this is something that happens at the workplace as well. So when you can give clear and concise processes, descriptions, and orders, or recommendations, or specific situations that need handling with clear and concise instruction, guess what happens? They get done. And that's the case at SCORE. Sometimes they don't get done as well because there's a downside. Perfectionists and specialists, Joel, tend to not understand what time limits are like. So they'll just, it's the type of person, and you know what I'm talking about, will grab a spreadsheet, and all you need is the breakdown of the numbers. But they're going to add the colors, they're going to add filters, they're going to add everything. It'll probably take them about 20, 30 minutes to complete the spreadsheet and 2 hours to get it to the way they want it to be. And sometimes perfectionists and specialists, and if some of you are like that on the call, I know you're laughing right now, but they're built for specific things. And what happens is that they'll tend to overwork things because they don't have a definitive endpoint. And even having that definitive endpoint, if they're not in agreement with that, they'll challenge that. So definitely hiring for this process, it sustains itself. It gives you a clear and concise way to properly approach the hiring process, and it even maximizes your time. Because if we hire, let's say, the last hire was 4 people. I probably went through about 50 applications. Only about 8 of them were actual candidates, and of those 8, I hired 4. Actually, I hired 6, and 2 in the hiring phase had gotten a job elsewhere. So, and the 4 that we hired have gone through our training criteria and are still working for us today, and we started that almost 2.5 months ago. So it works, and I suggest that you implement this in your businesses as well.
Yeah, and again, this is a tried and true method. I think we've gone through this same hiring process either 4 or 5 different times and honed it, of course, every time, as Joshua indicated in this presentation to you. And of course, what we've done is, Score is a process-driven company, so he's discussed cell processors as because that's what we do. So if we do have all of that information available, and we'll make you an offer at the end of the webinar here, but we also have the hiring processes that just as detailed for the sales and for the customer service person. If you're not familiar with the DISC personality profile, I recommend that you go to, Joshua, what's the name of that website? I forget.
Internalchange.com.
Yeah. Internalchange.com, exactly. And then in addition, when you're there, I recommend that you look at it. What is a new test for me, at least, is the team dimensions profile. So if you've got a team, if you've got multiple employees now, have everyone take the team dimensions profile 2.0, because what it'll do is it'll show you a completely different aspect than what we're discussing, but it effectively covers 4 different areas. Let me just tell you about that really quickly. One is forgive me for that, just a second here. One is the creator. So you certainly don't need too many creators in a small business. One is the advancer. One is the refiner. One is the executor. And one is the flexor. Okay, so it's very interesting in my particular business here in Mobile and with Score as well. It's very interesting how we've got somebody in every one of these roles and not too many people in one particular role, because unless you, like in Score, we probably have a lot of, if we tested all of them, they'd probably all end up being in the advancer and executor role. So it's a very interesting process. I recommend that you go through it. Again, this is a graph of our hiring process. And this is the graph of the sales associate profile. So kind of thinking through this, imagine these words that would be great and almost perfect for a sales and customer service person: decisive, inquisitive, self-assured, competitive, quick, compared to demanding, forceful, risk-taker, adventuresome. Which those are the things I am, okay? That made me a bad salesperson. It just makes me probably one that's not qualified to work for anybody other than myself, okay? So you want people that are decisive, inquisitive, self-assured, competitive, and quick, not unassuming, self-effacing, realistic, weighs pros and cons. See, that person is just not if they're in this area of the graph here, it's just not the right salesperson, okay? As far as the I goes, is someone that's poised, charming, confident, convincing, and observing, compared to someone that's too enthusiastic. Because somebody that's too enthusiastic, they're a person that can't sit at the desk all day and talk on the phone, okay? But because they're just too enthusiastic, they want to, every time they get through with a conversation that was good, they want to run and tell their coworker, okay? That's a person that's too enthusiastic. Now, a person that's more enthusiastic will probably be better in outside sales than they would be in inside sales. This is an inside sales profile, not a business development. Now, a compliance person takes on a little bit different role. It doesn't look too different, but it is. So we've got all this available for you as well. And then, of course, the customer service role takes on even different aspects here, where, see, they're more in the C phase. They've got a higher C, where they're accurate, fact-finding, diplomatic, systematic, conventional, and courteous. So, that's a customer service role. Customer service. So that would be a really great for the customer service. And then for the compliance, they're careful, restrained, high standards, analytical, sensitive, and mature, okay? So this is an aspect of the compliance person. Now, because in really larger organizations, you've got sometimes people that all they do is, after a deal is closed, they actually call back and go through a series of questions to determine if the entire process met the compliance associated that the owners and managers had set forth for the transactions. Joshua, again, one of the things that we're offering during this presentation is the ability to schedule calls with us to talk for 30 minutes, and pick our brain. And our goal in this is to help you, and of course to demonstrate to you that we're a company that you want to align yourself with and to consider doing business with us here at Score. Another thing that I want to do, Joshua, and make this offer, we've got these 3 different hiring processes for compliance, for customer service, as well as for inside sales. And they're extremely great documents. And if you would like all 3 of those documents, email us, let us know, and we'll sell them to you for $99. It's the first time we've ever offered them. And I want to offer them to you and give you an opportunity to buy those. And if you want to then have a 30-minute discussion with us about those, we'll be happy to go through those with you and to discuss them. So again, if you want to make an investment in your business for only $99, we'll give you all 3 of those hiring guides, and it'll really change your business. When you go to hire somebody, it'll make a huge difference in your business. Well, Joshua, I'm looking forward to having more of these training calls. I think I've had 6 or 7 so far this week, and I think I've been able to help the people get some really clear direction and again, get their heads out of the clouds and down to something that they can go and execute to grow their business, whether it's, again, going from 200 to 300, or from 20 to 30, or from 2 to 3, or just getting started.
Well, I've always said this, Joel. Anything by itself is just that thing. And if you're in the credit repair business and you want to find what the best templates are to dispute, that's not going to give you success. That'll help, but it won't give you success. If you want to learn and get more educated about the process, well, you can do certain things to educate yourself and pay for education, pay somebody to educate you, or spend time, which is money, to educate yourself online as well, and sift through the noise on the internet and get educated, but that won't help you alone by itself as well. All of this put together from a resource that, and quite frankly, I had a large credit repair business, retail, just like a lot of you out there. Joel has come from a business that's affiliated to ours, as well as has extensive knowledge in affiliate referral relationships. So spending some time with us and understanding that we don't offer just a dispute solution or an outsourced solution or a software solution, that we offer a proven solution, is definitely something that if it were offered to me when I started my business, I would definitely take it, even if I had, if I couldn't make that decision today to do business with the company, I'd definitely take advantage of those 30 minutes because I'd probably learn something, Joe.
Well, you know, without a doubt, and I can tell you, every business that I've ever started, I look back and shake my head and say, what in the hell was I thinking or not thinking, because that was pretty obvious. I should have made that different decision. So we want to offer, you that an access to us, introductory point to us, and again, to consider if you want to do business with us in the future. We look forward to it, whether you're a customer or not. We'll offer you that those 30 minutes. Well, Joshua, let's unless you've got something else to cover, let's end early today and let everybody get on with their day and hopefully finish out the day. If you're on the West Coast with a bang, if you're on the East Coast, finish up the evening, get planned for tomorrow. I can tell you one thing, without a doubt, it works in every business and it works in everybody's life. If you know without a doubt 80 or 90% of what you're going to do tomorrow, okay, and then move it out the next week, the next day, the next day, the next day, and get it out as far as you can ultimately. But if you come to the office tomorrow and know what you're going to do and get done tomorrow, have a list and your day planned out, executed, time blocked, you will be more successful than if you don't. Imagine, if you've recently, I remember back when you've gone on a vacation and you've had a list of things you had to do in order to get finished at work and you get planned and, buy these things. You got more stuff done in those 2 or 3 days of that week and getting ready for that vacation than you've done and maybe done in the previous week. And it's a good example because, you had a plan, you made a list, you got it done. And I see that in every business at every level, Joshua, because too often we show up at our office and we just take what comes at us versus doing everything on purpose. Make sure that tomorrow counts. Don't walk out of your office today without knowing what you're going to do tomorrow. And then again, the goal here is to push that out as far as possible. I'm planning things at this juncture for 6 and 8 months down the road, but I've got to worry about tomorrow, Joshua, because tomorrow I've got to execute just like everybody else does. So everybody, let's finish up today, and we'll look forward to seeing you back here next Thursday. If you want to take us up on the offer for the 3 hiring process guides for $99, we'll look forward to sending those over to you as soon as we get that finished up for you, and we'll go from there. Well, Joshua, for everybody, I want to say thank you for joining us, and look forward to seeing you here next week. Have a good day.